Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I decided to head on out to maybe go over to the dog walk by the river walk, just to have a little bit of a calming evening before going to sleep tonight. I had a little bit of anxiety today, just surrounding a whole bunch of things. So one of which includes, just getting the right paperwork into different types of people, kind of hoping certain people who were friends of mine, kind of counting on them to support me verbally or in writing. I was trying to gather documentation regarding experiences that began in 2011, fourth week of January. And there are people who know very well that I was scared, very scared and frightened, and that there must have been external stimuli causing it. So it's like careful wording because of what happened in January of 2011. There was a definite push from external forces to try to make, me look like I was, paranoid or something like that. And I had to work really hard to say, to try to talk to my parents and say something totally weird went down. I don't know what it is. I do know that I'm not the crazy one, but there is a large group of people out there that is, that those people are crazy, or they're abusing their powers or privileges or what have you. I do know I was set up a premeditated situation going on. And in retrospect, I could figure out I see. There were events leading up to the night that I was technically attacked in my apartment, and wondering if someone was coming out from the basement of the converted row home that I lived in. I was in one of the apartments of a converted row home, if you will. And I actually 100%, 2,000%, 500,000% believed that I would be murdered in my apartment that night. This was the fourth Monday of January 2011. Scared, SHITLESS, out of my apartment. I was shaking and trembling. Incredibly bad situation in Philadelphia unfolded here. I have no idea why I wound up sort of the target or victim of this. I do know that there are a lot of people keeping secrets, and it sounds like some sort of scandalous story. I am totally clueless as to why this happened. So the wording has to be careful, because I do know some people kind of, want to say, well, Sharon seemed to think, was it her perception or reality of what happened? It's a reality that this happened. So much so that I feel like I was pulled along a journey so that I could write about the events in my book, Duplicity and Duress, Snap Factories in the Making. Thank God for self-publishing being so easy these days. Easy meaning it's easy to get stuff published digitally. Not so easy to write a 611-page book. As they say, it's a tomb at 611 pages. And that would be normal formatting with normal fonts and everything. Anyway, I used the pseudonym Erin Vans. I didn't want to use my own name because I was so scared, even 7-8 years after everything started, that I wasn't sure what to do with the book. In fact, I was afraid to write the book at first. But I kept getting nudged here and there to go ahead and do it, change all the names, and even kind of change up some relationships so that it's not that obvious, like who's related to who in terms of family or friends or what have you. So I did all that and called it fiction. So the other nudge was, well, if you call it fiction, you're always safe, because don't they do that in the big world of movies and TV? Oh, if it resembles your personal experience, it's merely a coincidence. So that's what I wrote in my book. I have every disclaimer known to man inside my book to cover my ass. I am kind of curious, though, how some people are sleeping at night, even today. They know they're wrong. They know they're wrong. They know they're wrong. Anyway, I don't want to get into all the details just because I don't want it to be like this, like, depressive sort of situation. it does bother me that there were so many people who too readily wanted to say, "Oh, are you paranoid? Oh, what are you paranoid? What are you paranoid? Do you think it's this? Do you think it's paranoia? Do you think it's paranoia? Do you think it's crazy, 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 crazy?" Imagine if you're the only sane person surrounded by a large group of individuals who are willing to play a game. It does sound like a movie, kind of. It's like, didn't I see this in a movie scene somewhere? Say you actually experience something like that and you're thinking, no fucking way. Oh, wait, hold on. Emerald Green up here. Is he just peeing on that big gigantic? This is Philly these days. Maybe they're sent in. I just had this idea, like maybe people are sent in to pee on all the rich people who might have participated. Because there were, this thing was so large that it was too overwhelming for my brain to accept that this thing went on. Like I kept getting work and I just kept working. I was a dog walker doing house sitting, overnights, and regular dog walking. The work kept coming in, I just kept doing it. I was kind of like a girl who looked like a chicken with her head cut off kind of thing. Trying to get around the city. And anyway, it was pretty bad. And it's almost as if it's conspiratorial-ish. It's almost as if people have the privilege and the power to create feelings around another person, or to shade things, if you will, like throw me some shade, So like, say you can affect someone's behavior, feelings, what have you, and you can almost put someone in a state of paranoia, not only because of the actions of people, say, on the street, but because of other things going on that might include technology, things like that. Remember the Philadelphia experiment, which came out? That's like going back to 1952. And there are people who believe, like, oh my God, like, it's amazing. There are basic things in technology that can be done that have been forgotten over the years because we're so used to and sort of take for granted the fact that we have these big screen TVs, all these capabilities. But something very basic like a radio wave, frequencies, things like that, can heavily affect someone's brain, behavior, thought process, what have you. Might even be able to puppet someone and get them to say things that they never thought they would say or do. So anyway, if you're interested in reading the book, I do have some examples in there showing that, oh my God, I think they could puppet people. And I don't know where this energy force is coming from, but my jaw is moving and I'm saying something and it's as if some other force was speaking through me. And what is it? So some people's frame of reference would be technology. Other people's frame of reference would be the occult. And it's easier for the brain, especially if you have a certain type of education. So my education is writing, language, English. And I guess I don't know anything about technology. So I barely made it on YouTube. So it's easier for me to believe, like, oh, is voodoo real or is like the occult real? So technically my brain wants to fall back to that. Like, that's just easier for me. I don't know how to deal with other people would suggest that there's technology. And just say you got a divorce after 10 years and you had no clue it was coming. You found your spouse cheating on you, sleeping with someone else, and you walk into every store and the music is geared towards that situation and you're hurt even more. Like, always something there to remind me. Or, I'm sure there are worse songs. But just imagine every store you go into, the song is there to hurt you personally. Or at least maybe the CIA makes sure that the songs are programmed to wherever you go. You can't escape the machine, if you will. That song I don't actually recognize. So thank you, God, for that. I spent years, literally, I'll give you another example. In 2011, at some point, it was almost like, okay, I'll go down and I'll visit my mom and dad. I couldn't figure out how to move down there. It's kind of a thing where they were in living situations and they were older. They've passed away. They passed away in 2020. It wouldn't have really been feasible for me to live with them per se. And it's not like they had enough money. Like, I would have had to find work really quick. And I was already in a state of shock and PTSD, shell shock, the whole 9 yards. And they wouldn't have been able to have the money to to put me up, and I would have felt weird asking for something like that from them. But anyway, flew down to Florida to visit them separately. My dad lived with his second wife, and my mom lived with her aunt, or I'm sorry, my aunt, her sister. So anyway, when I returned, I stopped really quick into Rittenhouse Market to pick up something to eat, so I would have something to eat that night before I went to sleep. And the song was "Everybody Needs a Little Time Away." So everybody needs a little time away, and blah blah blah, whatever the rest of the lyrics are. And immediately, it's like on cue. As soon as I walked in, bam, music starts up. And the whole time I'm shopping, technically I was probably looking for yogurt and, like a protein bar, and that's the music that was on. In addition to one of the workers there who used to kind of be in a supervisory role, he was slinking around and watching, and he just had like a certain body mannerism thing that was a little too much. Like it was over the top slinking around. So anyway, that's a little example there of something that can feed into someone's quote unquote paranoia or induced paranoia. Or is it paranoia if people are actually doing something on purpose to creep and freak someone out? So anyway, I decided to turn on the live stream before I got all the way over here to the dog park. I was going to wait until the dog park just because it's a calming experience to hang out there. It's all the way over by the Schuylkill River, way back in, 2010, somewhere maybe, I guess before 2011. Just before then, they opened up a new bridge, created a whole new dog park and everything, one for big dogs and one for little dogs over by the river. And then they opened up the boardwalk extension. So there's a stretch of, it's really like cement. It's not like wooden like at the beach, like a boardwalk. So a stretch of cement, bridge kind of thing that stretches out over the Schuylkill River and runs south. So it doesn't go across the river to the west side. You just run south on it or north. It's like a running path, bike path, all that stuff. So anyway, we are heading west on Spruce Street, and it's a couple blocks before we get all the way over there. I just like to go up on the bridge and kind of watch all the dogs just sort of milling around and, playing together and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure, this big gigantic home, somehow, someone told me a long time ago that it might have belonged to Edmund Bacon, who was the father of Kevin Bacon. Believe it or not, Edmund Bacon was the city planner for the city of Philadelphia. So he had a lot of say in how things were developed and laid out here. So moving company here. Nice and quiet. So I don't know if it's true if they actually lived here or not. I just remember someone kept talking about it. I do know that Philadelphia was technically Kevin Bacon's home way back in the day, I guess. I don't know if he's still he lives up in New York City. I don't know if he's a New York City person or an LA person, but he might be more New York City-ish with Sedgwick and everything. So anyway, I don't watch a lot of TV. One thing that happened, I almost feel like there were many years of grooming or escorting me into the situation that occurred in 2011. Because along the way, I slowly shed things like I started to watch less and less and less TV. Wherever I've lived in Philadelphia, the microwave did not work, or it would break down within a couple weeks. And that's true even today. Moved into this apartment after returning from Florida. Within a couple of weeks, seemingly brand new microwave short-circuited one day. And I was like, you know what? I don't really prepare anything in the microwave. I don't really need to use it for anything the way that I eat. It's not that necessary. So I don't use it. And anything that I would heat up in the oven, it's the kind of thing of, I have a mentality of well, I don't want to eat so quickly that I'm shoveling something down my face or, down my bile or whatever. So I will put something in the oven and wait for it, and I feel like I've earned it. It's kind of it's a mentality. It's a way of like making sure I don't puff up, you know. So anyway, um, so that's an interesting thing. Like, what's the dealio with microwaves? And either my experience or do other people's microwaves break when they first move into an apartment here? Is that normal for everyone? So eating out here on the 2200 block of Spruce, I forget what it's called. The fire alarm was going off the other morning. I got up super early on Sunday. Was it yesterday morning? It must have been Sunday morning. And I walked past there, and it was either the fire alarm or, I don't know, a door alarm or something. I just assumed it was probably like a fire alarm. So anyway, microwaves. So the microwave that I had in the apartment that I moved into when I first moved to Philadelphia in 2000 broke down within a few weeks, I think, of moving into 2601 Pennsylvania Avenue. It's a condominium building now. Back then it was owned by or run by historic landmarks for living. So anyway, also in that apartment there was in the bathroom sink area, or at the bathroom sink, there was the cold knob and the hot knob, but they were reversed. And in retrospect, when I think about my experience since I've been in Philadelphia, I'm wondering if they reprogrammed my brain, if they were slowly beginning to kind of like make sure they switched things in my brain a little bit so that I would start being rewired and would think differently as a person. I never got it fixed because technically I had cats. I never told the property management company that I had cats because I didn't want to pay the fee for cats. And, I was afraid that if maintenance men came in, they would tell someone that I had cats, or it would come up that I had cats. And I didn't want any fees to ever surface for me to have to pay to have those cats there. So as a result, I got used to the cold being on the hot side and the hot being on the cold side. I just put up with it. And the thing is, when I moved into the next apartment that I would live in, my brain had to get back to the old thing of, oh wait, the hot's on the left side, the cold's on the right side. So I honestly believe that I was slowly rewired over time. I'm so not kidding, this thing was so bad. So I am so not kidding. So anyway, it still surprises me that this was allowed to unfold and that no one has suffered any consequences that I'm aware of. It's possible that some people were involved and they could, usually when there's problems, there's a lot of problems. So if someone was involved, they could be not only involved in what happened, but they could be involved in drugs or bad business dealings or what have you, or harassment in general. So it's possible that some people might have suffered consequences without me knowing. Like I would have never known. So anyway, I tried to think of it that way because it was so bad. So anyway, I do think my brain was rewired over time, and definitely whatever occurred and unfolded and was unleashed in 2011, talk about completely throwing someone into a state of like disorientation, and how easy is it to mold, manipulate, and just sort of like reconfigure someone from a state of extreme vulnerability and fear. Not the best way to help someone if the idea was, guess what, we're going to help Sharon and turn her into a whole new person. Or we're going to make her, like, remember MTV had that thing, that TV show called Made, and they figured out like, if somebody wants to be more fit, that's an easy one. They need to come out every morning. They need to put the miles in. They need to do track. They need to do this. They need to have a whole new diet, what have you. What if this were like an elevated program? I thought about that because it was almost like intervention. Like okay, then I had like a million theories as to what was going on. And the thing is, things were going on for a long time. So there was the initial like hit, as I call it, with this feeling that people broke and entered into the building, the idea that I was going to be murdered in my apartment, scared shitless, couldn't hold my phone. Your muscles go limp when you're scared. You cannot scream. So screaming is out. So these horror films are totally lying to you. I can tell you right now, when you are scared shitless, nothing escapes the vocal cords. Trust me on that one. Scared shitless. Standing on my bed trying to figure out like which way can I go to get out? Like where or what can I do? And I was like kind of frozen for a while. I finally called my sister first. Thank God she answered the phone. Then she said, well, do you have a stick for the door? Do you have something you can put up under the doorknob to feel more secure? I'm in a tiny, tiny, tiny studio. Only one way in, one way out. I felt trapped, big time. Finally, she said, well, if I get off the phone, can you call the police? Like, will you go ahead and, like, we got to the point where she's like, call the police, call the police, call the police. So I call the police. And they come out and were kind of useless, to be quite honest. No offense to the police, offense to the police. I cannot believe how useless they were. I might as well serve them donuts and coffee. That's how bad it was. They almost wanted to laugh in my face. My entire body was shaking and trembling. I'm surprised I could stand. Oh, well, there's a van up there. The thing is, there was a van that was idling outside the window of my apartment, and there was a guy sitting in there with a headset, and it scared me. This guy just sitting there looking in towards my window, So anyway, for some reason I got onto that story, even though I was coming over here to do a little ASMR stuff. But anyway, they came out, they waltzed around. They never, in retrospect, they never offered to say, well, do you want us to go into the basement just to check it out so that you'll feel better, peace of mind, there's no one down there? They did not. I don't remember what I said because I was so scared. So anyway, that aside, I mean, I could go on and on about this story. I've been telling it for eons and trying to convince people, and trying to find answers and trying to figure out who to contact. And in a liberal city where you think people would help you, not a soul. Not a soul. Not a soul. So anyway, and we are super progressive here. Wink, wink, wink. Or are we? I did learn something about how people are programmed. We think we're supposed to believe in something. We will even protest on the streets because we believe in something. But then suddenly something happens, or I know that people can be made to believe something through brainwashing, and they kind of think they believe in it, but they don't know why they believe in it, and they wouldn't believe in it if other things were to happen. It's hard to explain. I don't vote anymore as a result of what happened to me. I will never vote again in the United States of America, ever, ever, ever. Don't care. It's already said. It's already written. So anyway, here's the beautiful dog park. I don't know who paid for this. Some people will say it's taxes, but I have a feeling there's also a large Friends of the Locust Park area. Anyway, so I'll get off the topic that makes me, upset and angry. Technically, I wanted to come out here and enjoy dog walking, or just the dog park. Sorry, my brain's kind of in another place right now. Just because it's, peaceful and fun and therapeutic. And technically, if you have dogs and stuff, you stay active as a person because you kind of have to take them out, for a walk. You can't remain as a shut-in in your house, which can happen a lot. In Philly, it gets cold here, and So anyway, over there, the FMC building, 46 floors of happiness over there. I've taken care of a dog on the 46th floor, two dogs actually, sorry, Benji and JJ. And they live in Stay AKA. It goes up to the 46th floor. So I'm a little chill. It's a little chilly tonight. Small dog park over there. I'm hoping you can kind of see it. I don't want these people to feel like they're on show totally. It's why I feel a little bit bad about that. But it's so fun to come out here. This Australian Shepherd right at the gate. So many people, two Australian Shepherds, Doberman Pinscher, Labradoodle or Golden? Okay, Labradoodle red, Golden, or no, not well, anyway, all kinds of, it's just too fun. And, you know, to be a dog and to be able to come out and play and everything. I saw a sign that said something about weight restrictions. Like they used to have size restrictions and everything, and you know, all the smaller dogs are supposed to be over there, all the bigger dogs are supposed to be over here. Now, if you say you have one of each, I wondered about this. Like, say you're by yourself and you have one of each, can you bring the small one in here? I'm sure it's not that big a deal, but some people have a small dog and a big dog. But the sign says something like no weight restrictions. So I don't know about size versus weight. So, and when the light goes out, sorry, that's the messaging that I got after being scared in my apartment. Don't forget to turn out the lights. So when the sun sets, I'm just imitating what happens to newscasters. There is a puppeting program out there, folks. You could be one. Your daughter could be one. Your wife could be one. Women are a little bit more apt to be puppeted than men, it seems. I don't know why. I feel badly about this, because I'm a woman and I don't want to be puppeted. But I do know that I can speak clearly and I have a brain. But I know that sometimes other words will come through and like, wait, I meant to say blah, blah, blah. Or, oh my gosh, my mouth is getting all twisted up and I didn't cause it. So that does not make for a happy, happy person. So railroad tracks, part of the Holocaust, always in history. Here is the boardwalk extension. I'm trying to stay positive, but I'm still angry about getting justice or compensation for the pain and suffering, mental anguish, death threats, intimidation, harassment, and so much more. There's a long list, which I have documented. As much as possible, considering how hard I had to work on my own, by myself, with parents who had no capacity to understand what I was talking about, and had no resources. They wouldn't know what to do. They don't realize how hard it is to like just get up and move, except for my mom would, because she was a single parent and knew that you had to have a certain amount of money to be able to do things. My dad had less of an understanding of that. Yes, I have no pet. Jim, hi, how are you? Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate it. Yes, Joe, River Park. I'm down here at the river. I was sort of talking about my experience, which began in 2011, and was trying not to get too negative. I'm trying to stay positive. So, I mean, technically, it's hard to find love in this world. I know, no one. That's hilarious. Yes, that is true. I know what you mean. Selfish people. I know. It's surprising because no one wants to wind up in a situation where they have to ask for help. And no one wants to wind up in a situation where it's like, what? oh my God, I can't believe what just happened. I don't know what to do. And then to have people act either strangely in response to what happened to you when you kind of like seek for, or play into it and try to make you look paranoid. And it's like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do now? I'm totally normal. Like technically I was raised to be professional. Delaware is very conservative. Everybody knows how to work at a bank, like a credit card bank. So that's the kind of world I grew up in. You know, everybody's perfect, everyone's a professional, everyone's in a suit, you do the right thing, blah, 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 so forth and so on. So anyway, they are so mean. I know, so awful. I know. So thank you. I appreciate the validation because I have no idea what it is about the group of people that I was tortured by. I have no idea what's going on in their brains other than there might be people who make a lot of money, are able to work at a high level, but also might be drug addicts, or they have certain things to hide and cover up. Like we want to blame people who are obvious, right? Who are in Kensington slumped over on opioids or whatever, you know. I am not like them. Thank you. I appreciate that. And it could be that there are people who appear more sophisticated or have more money, and they too could be on drugs, and their brains are fried technically, but they're willing to do whatever, harm other people to hide whatever it is they do on the side. So that could be part of it. A lot of runners coming in here. So the healthier section of Philadelphia. So it looks like a running group almost. So better than Kensington, right? So we're showing up Kensington videos, you know. So sorry, no offense to Kensington, because I have deep empathy for these people. I don't know what happened to them. They might have been hit in a way and human trafficked, and I don't even want to get into that wormhole, because I do believe people are human trafficked or stuck. Once they get into a certain situation, they could be trapped there. So my goal is to not be trapped and to eventually find a way out. This is one of the healthier parts of Philadelphia. So glad to see so many people running. Of course, it's that time of the year, and they might have cross-country runners from UPenn, University of Pennsylvania, or Temple, or what have you. University of Pennsylvania is way over there in the Sunset area, all up in the house. Franklin Field is actually, is it here? Wait, hold on. Yeah, Franklin Field is before the 10. So Franklin Field is right around there. So anyway, I saw people something. Sorry, I missed that comment because of the sun glare and everything. I joined them. I saw people picketing in my town over it. Oh, a bunch of sellouts. So I can't see all the comments simply because of the way that I have this mount on my phone. It's technically not an official mount. I just sort of like improvised with a mount that I had for a halo lamp that I got at Five Below. So it's covering like part of my screen. So sorry if I can't respond perfectly to anyone who is willing to engage with me and humor me at least for a while. Thanks. So anyway, so we're headed up the Riverwalk here. And also, just in case, like I plugged in my charger on my phone. If for some reason the video goes out, it's because the battery goes out. So just letting you know in advance, because that happened earlier this morning. All of a sudden it just shut down and it wouldn't let me get back on. And apparently my everything like fizzled, and I thought everything had been charged up for today. So, and that was early this morning. Thank you. Yeah. So anyway, we'll head up here and maybe we'll get off at the Walnut Street Bridge. This is all new-ish. I mean, the Riverwalk has been here for a while, but I remember when these came in, the bathrooms and everything, and they're all like green and eco-friendly and all that. Composting toilets, that's what they are. So refreshing, right? To pick it or... so anyway, that's composting, unless you mean composting, I don't know. Sorry. So we have a trainer out here. I feel like he's probably been training for, there's always like personal trainers out here, and I feel like he might have been around for quite a while. Do we want to go up here or? So This is the Schuylkill River and the Riverwalk. So it's kind of exciting. I'm reminded a little bit of humanity and the healthier side of Philly, um, being out here with people running. Just because sometimes, uh, for whatever reason, the conversation got on to whatever happened in January of 2011, and I will keep airing my grievances until someone does something here in the city. But on the other hand, I'd rather be healthy and not have to worry about whatever it was that happened. Um, anyway, I don't know. I don't want to get into the whole thing, but it's almost like, for some reason, when Obama was in office, I'm not sure why this was going on while he was in office, because I don't know that it's related to him per se, but memes or movements were occurring, to put people in a great state of fear. Some of it could have resulted in the resurrection or the insurrection, sorry, the insurrection, because those people believed something so vehemently that they were willing to actually do that, they were riled up enough to actually charge at the White House, which is a major crime. One rule of protesting: don't get arrested, don't do anything to get arrested. So here in Philly, they know protesting big time. And you sign up. Like, you actually do have people who are willing to be arrested, for small offenses, because they've been arrested before and they know the process. So anyway, that's your liberal protesters here in the city. The people protesting in DC, I think they were right-wingish, or I don't know I kind of forget their politics, but what I do know is, big strikeout. They might have made history, but there's some people in there who I guess, I don't know what the ruling was, will wind up spending too much time in jail for being incredibly dumb. And nobody cares about history anymore because by the time you get older, you're like, oh wait, I see, they just made it up. So I get it. It was orchestrated. Or I get it. A bunch of people set someone up in order to create history. So they were puppeted into creating history. So there are a lot of people out there who don't even believe half the history any longer, because of how much orchestration goes on and staging and all that other stuff. Like the slapping of Chris Rock, do you believe it or not? Yet we have a million news articles about that. And everyone's supposed to just sit there and accept awards and have a good time after that, if it weren't staged. Like, if it were real, right? If it were real, or you're like, oh, we're just supposed to sit here and accept that happened, and we'll just all play nice and wait, and the whole evening is spoiled for. And if it were real, the whole evening would be spoiled. TV is fake. You're right. That's what I mean. So it's like, okay, alrighty. I was hoping to get my big Oscar tonight, but Will Smith just slapped Chris Rock. So that's, it's a little bit, the thing is, like, then there are situations where people actually suffer. Like in my case, I actually suffered. I was tortured, sort of like the girl who almost got buried alive because she was with a bunch of people, and she wasn't in on the joke. Right, it was ridiculous. Like, that girl was not in on the joke. And everybody else wanted to say that she was in on the joke. Of course, because of my experience, I'm going to assume the girl was telling the truth. That's what it was like for me. I'm like, I have no freaking idea what's going on. I'm not in on whatever this is. I just know I was scared shitless in my apartment. I thought I was going to be killed. I actually believe that was the last night of my life. Like, big time. And then, after I called the police, and after the police did absolutely nothing except almost laugh at me, a female and a male cop, I then called people I knew who lived not too far from me, who I happened to have befriended, or they befriended me about 2 years prior. And I happened to move in kind of within close proximity of them. I feel like I was set up to be there. This is a lot of something something. So anyway, I go over to their place, and when I start describing, like, oh my God, I thought someone was breaking into the building, I thought I was going to be killed, they started talking and saying things as if they had bugged my apartment, as if they knew what I said on my phone to my sister. So it started to get creepy. I'm like, I just ran from my apartment because I thought I'd be murdered there, and I'm serious. Then they start talking, saying, oh, maybe you should have, did you have a stick? Did you have a stick to put up under your door? Which is exactly what my sister had said, do you have a stick or something to put up under the door? Maybe you have a stick. Then they started going on and on and on, talking about all kinds of things. And it was so coincidental to things that had been going on in my life. And like with obscure things, they even brought up the pleasure chest, which no one talks about the pleasure chest unless they're with a potential lover, okay? And I had been hanging out with someone, and she was talking about the pleasure chest a lot. It got too weird. Sorry. So this is my LGBT experience here. It got too weird, and this after I was already scared. So this is Steph and Meg's house. They lived on Duress between Fitzwater and Catherine. And they were building new homes across the street from where they were renting a home. They had a little bit more money, so they could rent a house. So they live in Oregon now. In fact, Stephanie's brother was the head of, and this is Franz Schoening, he was the head of the mounted police department there, the horse department, whatever. But they have since disbanded. I think it was 2016-ish when they got rid of that mounted police department section, whatever. Schoening. So I've heard it pronounced like 3 different ways because of who they are. So it's either Franz Schoening, which is normal, or Franz Schoening, which God knows what Scheening means, like Martin Sheen or something. So anyway, nature killers, right? The mounted horsemen, right? Right. Now the thing is, like, I kind of was okay with them until this happened. When this happened, I was like, they are acting as if they could hear my conversation. It's been so many years, and now I kind of understand that people have certain privileges, and they might, walls have ears more than you think. It's almost as if everyone's their own personal cell phone. So anyway, but back then I had no clue. Like, I was like, did they bug my apartment? Like, how would they know that? Could they somehow hear me talking to my sister on the phone over the past hour? So this kind of behavior would go on and on. I could not meet up with any of my friends without this activity happening. Oh, look, there's a big gigantic radio tower. Claridge, the Rittenhouse. So anyway, maybe people can communicate brain to brain, and I didn't know that. Back then, I just know I was running around scared, crazy. And I couldn't, at first, obviously I wouldn't go back to the police because they were not a help that night. And I was too scared. Someone said, oh, go to a clinic. Hey, Joe, how are you? The thing was, I knew that I was so scared that if I had shown up at a, whatever you call it, clinic or what have you, like a psychologist, whatever, I knew that I would come across a certain way, and that people would quickly diagnose me with something that was erroneous. I was so afraid to be called a schizophrenic or a paranoia person. Thank you, Sharon. You're welcome. So Night Mother, a play by Marcia Norman, directed by... I'm not a huge theater fan anymore because of what happened either, because I'm wondering where they get their material or how they create material. So anyway, I don't do theater. I don't do movies. YouTube is fine because for the most part, people are basically real-ish. and they just do, their own thing, and they don't have tons of money or anything like that to create an entire illusion, or delusional people like Black Swan and that mind bender of a movie. So anyway, I've never seen that movie, never will, because I already know they tried to use that. Hey Sharon, you ever see Black Swan? So anyway, talk about trying to feed paranoia, schizophrenia. Luckily, I had enough intelligent people behind me out there, and I also had enough intelligence to constantly remind myself that I'm not crazy. A bunch of people akin to the movie The Game with Sean Penn and Michael Douglas from the late 90s. If you look it up, it just says The Game. It's a lot like that. And it's like, oh, I didn't sign up for anything though. And I'm not jumping off any buildings into a net that's supposed to be there, which wouldn't be there, right, in real life. But say there were a group of people who were a little bit more like snuff filmish, and they're kind of into creating snuff films or what have you. What if they were that sick and sadistic, right, that they would actually want someone to believe that it's okay to, it's okay, a net will appear. So anyway, yes, you're welcome, Joe. I'm just recounting some events that started back in 2011. It's part of the reason for the YouTube channel. It's called PTSD for a reason, because I did experience severe shell shock, and without a bomb going off, but close. Metaphorically, I am talking bad. So anyway, I'm here this many years later, 11 years later, hoping to find some sort of justice, compensation, validation, monetary, something or other, some way to survive for the rest of my life. And really, I'm hoping someday that someone comes forward and that they would be willing to explain their role. There are so many people that you're forced into the church mode of, well, not one person, from my in-person perspective, not one person can totally have their finger pointed at them as a total criminal. Like if you have death by 10,000 cuts. So say you had 10,000 people willing to undercut you, slight you, patronize you, condescend you on purpose. Beware, we must, yeah. So, right, New World Order, that came up as a theory. I'm like, what is it? I don't know. I can't, I'm just a regular person. I was born in Newark, Delaware, 403 Hudson Drive. And went to public school, God help us all. Somehow made it through University of Delaware. So anyway, I knew that in my state of mind, the first month after everything broke loose, I knew that I would sound a certain way, and that I didn't know how to explain myself at all clearly. I could not speak clearly. One of the, what do I want to say? One thing that happens to people when they're traumatized is that they cannot clearly speak or explain themselves. They would almost come across as not knowing anything or dumb. And predators rely on that heavily. Predators rely on women particularly, but any of their victims, as seeming kind of stupid, dumb, unable to explain themselves, or, oh, clearly she's paranoid. So there you have it. Anyway, I was already educated to an extent in this matter, but this blew it up to a whole other level. It magnified the situation to a whole other level. I'm not really sure why I wound up in this situation. I know that there's a lot of people who used to be online explaining their stories. I am having a hard time finding them in this year, in this day and age, now that it's 11 years later. So I don't know if things have settled down or if the pandemic squashed a lot of efforts, because no one could gather. Predators of this kind love to gather, and they operate in high numbers. So the pandemic might have thrown a huge wrench into the party of attacking Sharon or other targeted individuals of this nature. So in a way, I almost have to thank the pandemic, even though I did lose my dad to COVID-19. I lost my mom about 4 months prior to him passing away. In her case, it was more natural causes. And then my aunt, finally, 9 months after my mom passed away. And for her, it was, a whole bunch of things. She was 84, but COPD being the last straw. So she already had asthma as it was. And anyway, so I lost my mom in July of 2020, my dad in December of 2020, COVID, and then my aunt in April of 2021. So I don't know what to say. Like, it's a little scary that this many people, they're older, but that they all died within close proximity and timing. One of my nephews lost his father just about a month and a half ago. So, this would be the third. My sister has 3 kids, and her third child's father just passed away. So it is kind of a concern. I did actually express concern through the tip line at the FBI and everything for various reasons. Like, things keep happening, like creepy texts from distant family members that almost seem like timed, as if they know that I'm exiting Trader Joe's and it's the last weekend for SNAP benefits or pandemic assistance. And it's weird. It's weird and creepy. You betcha, Bandit. So that's the text message I got from one of my family members, and I was kind of weirded out, which is why I reported it to the FBI. IC3.gov would be the FBI tip line. I have 6 tips in there with names and phone numbers. Isn't Philly so nice? Imagine that sinks into your brain and you internalize it because of everything that's gone on. Or what if it was actually written there for you? There were a lot of sticker graffiti showed up around 2010, 11, 12, 13. Priority mail stickers all over every place. And some of those stickers actually had very specific information on them. And I was a dog walker, so I was outside all the time and would see these stickers. Some of the stickers I wound up saving as evidence because they were so personalized. It was crazy. It could look like New World Order. It could. It's like, how would someone from the sky know what? Like, it got to the point where it's like, somehow they have thought bubbles in the sky and know, how can I figure out, like, they know this, that, or the other. Oh, look, there's some reparations here at Tiffany's in case anyone's getting married or buying any jewelry. Crystal Clear Cleaning, TR. Anyway, Keith Haring is the artwork for a lot of themes here in Philadelphia. Keith Haring keeps showing up, not just at Tiffany's and that jewelry place, but elsewhere. Anyway, so I forget what else I was going to say. Oh, the artwork. So 1 year into being attacked in my building, in my apartment, I would raise my blinds, which I kept thinking about my blinds because they were a little bit crooked sometimes. I had a cat that was still living until about, the early part of 2012. So anyway, I lifted my blinds really quick. Icon building and Vince, period. So I like to say I convince. And my case is real. I don't know why some stores have a period at the end of their names. Used to be James. James is gone. That had a period. And also Grocery had a period. The signage is still there in the neighborhood in the Midtown area, but that store probably won't reopen. So anyway, I convince. But I had raised my blinds on the 1 year anniversary of everything happening because I was so freaked out that so many people, one way or another, would show that they knew my personal business, which they shouldn't have known because things I said, did, or whatever in private would appear out on the street either as artwork, a t-shirt, something people said in front of me or at the coffee table next to me, what have you. So there was a sign on a telephone pole at the southeast corner of 13th and Lombard, and it said, if the blinds are up or down, crooked or not, we scammed your stupid ass. Is that what they? I still have it. I have it. I saved it. Can you imagine being tortured to death, exploited, humiliated, made to believe you were going to be killed in your apartment? I grew up in Delaware, by the way. And that's not my car. I don't have a car. I haven't had one since 2000. I used my mom's car while in Florida to work for Shift. So anyway, can you imagine going through all of that? And then someone blatantly, seemingly, on some graffiti on a piece of paper on a telephone pole at 13th and Lombard, southeast corner, we scammed your dumb ass. Can you imagine being called dumb on top of being raped and tortured for a very long time? So I took it down and saved it as evidence. I saved quite a bit of sticker art. I've taken pictures. I've saved all kinds of stuff. It's technically circumstantial because no one can prove that that sign was made for me personally, but it was pretty damn close. So anyway, sorry to be so honest, brutally honest. Sorry to keep wanting to explain my circumstances. This city will compensate Sharon someday. Someone involved will do the right thing by Sharon. My landlord's name, Dennis Wasserman. Dennis Wasserman was my landlord at 626 South 19th Street from Bluebell, PA. Wasserman. Just like Debbie Wasserman from the DNC. Remember, she got ousted and she couldn't do anything any longer at the DNC. And she's from Florida. So Dennis Wasserman, technically he owes me $56,000 because I was stuck having to stay in that apartment while being human trafficked as a dog walker. I was trapped in that job. I could not figure out what to do. In a way, there was an argument for human trafficking. So I paid, it was really low rent, which is how I got in there to begin with. I almost feel like I was baited to be in the apartment. So the rent was $675 to begin with? Can you believe that? $675. A studio, it was small, so it wasn't that desirable. It's only about 4 blocks south of Rittenhouse Square. That's pretty good. So anyway, I was paying $675. By the time I left, I was paying like $750. And he kind of loosely kept a lease. And at one point, he's like, if you ever, right around 2016, 15 or 16, he didn't keep renewing the lease. He's like, if you ever need to leave, just leave. And it's not a big deal. I couldn't figure out how to leave because I was so trapped in my situation. So Dennis Wasserman, 626 South 19th Street, bike racks right in front of the building or row home, whatever you want to call it. I liked him except for the fact that I can't tell if he was involved or not, or if I was set up to be there on purpose. My neighbors were Drew and Claudia Kapoor, who had a dog named Daisy at 624 South 19th Street. On the other side, Mark, you might see, if you're from Philly, you would see him around here over at Holt's smoking a cigar. He's quite a character with a bow tie. Everybody knows. I do, and sometimes I like him now, but back then I wasn't sure if he was involved or not, but he would sit outside all the time and offer wine to passersby. So a little show was going on there, but I was being tortured, trust me, big time. I'm surprised I'm still alive. I plan to stay alive, and I will continue to report my situation to whomever I need to make sure that I stay alive. So anyway, sorry about that. I went on a little rant. But for some reason, today was rant day. Thank you so much for humoring me, for hanging in there and listening, and for throwing in some comments. I truly appreciate it. And and I will head on inside. And I promise I'll have really positive things in other videos. But at least I'm not screaming down the street, because I was at one point in 2016 to 17. This thing got so bad that I was screaming down the street. So thank you so much, and have a great night. And thank you, Flat Earth. Great rant. Thank you. Right. I'll have to, I don't want to be ranting though. I genuinely, what I really want is a yogic lifestyle, peaceful, maybe by the water, happy, loving. Hopefully there's, a friend or two in my life who are super nice, and, I don't want to push people away. That's truly, I'm a lovey person and would prefer that. So anyway, perseverance conquers on temple. So thanks again. Have a great night, and hope to see you next time, despite me having my little Fitbits. Thank you. Here we go. I will slide on down and try to figure it out here. And have a sweet night.